And welcome back to my channel. Just use your phone. I've been seeing that over the last few months there have been a lot of questions under my other videos on account setups. So this video is going to focus only on that. We're only going to be setting up accounts in the Money Manager. So first we're going to go down to More in the corner here. Then we're going to go to Configuration. And what we're going to be focused on is this account section for this video. So when we click on account groups, this is the page that shows up. Account groups are just basically like categories of the different types of accounts that you have. So if you have cash, let's say you have cash in different places, under the mattress or in a hollowed out book, you would have it under the cash section. For accounts, I would say it's for bank accounts. You could have it under that section. If you have loans, you could put them down here. You can have others. The way you would edit these accounts would be if you want to delete it, you would just press the minus button like this, and the little garbage can appears, and you would simply delete it. So just to show you an example, I don't need this or this. So I press minus, delete, and it's gone. Overdrafts, minus, delete, and it's gone. If you wanted to add an account, you would simply go up to the top right-hand corner, and there is a plus button. You would press it, and here you could name the account. So let's just say we could name the account Personal Debts. And here we could just list any debts that we have to people that we know. We would put it under this account group. So then I would just press save. A little note here is because it's not for credit cards or debit cards, I'm not choosing it. I'm just leaving it at default and save. And then you see right down here, we have personal debts. So if you want to move these around, let's say you want the personal debts to appear over here, you would just squeeze this kind of hamburger menu and slide it up to wherever you would want it. And essentially you could just use the account groups however you would want to use them. If you want to put them as like if you wanted to put an account group as, let's say, like assets or liabilities, and then under assets you would list all of your accounts and everything that you have that's an asset. Under liabilities, you list your credit cards and all your other debts. You can do it that way. It's pretty customizable. The only thing is that these are not deletable, so they are core account groups in the app. So again, if you want to add, you would go up to the top right-hand corner, press the plus button, and add something like, let's say, assets, save, and the account would appear at the bottom. We're going to go back and we're going to do our account setting. So this is where we'll be setting up our accounts. As you can see here, you have the default ones that are set by the app, and we can create our own sub-accounts for the account groups we just created. So to do that, we're just going to go again, top right plus sign. And then this is what pops up when you press that button. Remember all those account groups that we just created before? They are all here. So we're going to go through a majority of them and just set up accounts for the ones that I get asked a lot of questions about. So we're not going to do the cash one because it's just cash. We can take a look at the accounts one. So I'm just going to press accounts, and then this is what pops up. This is the group we chose, the accounts. We're going to choose the name, and here we're going to put what the balance is right now as we're setting it up. So let's just say we have a checking account. We're going to put checking right here. And let's just say the balance is $1,000. We're going to put the balance as $1,000. And then we're going to hit save. When we press save, this is going to pop up. And I'm going to press no because it's not income. That is just the balance that I'm setting the account as. And then it takes us back to this page and we see the account we just set up right here. We'll do another one, but first I just want to point out the three buttons over here is where you would modify, show or hide, or delete. To modify the order, you would just press modify orders, and then you would choose one and you would choose this one, and then the little up and down arrows show up over here. So if you want to put it up, it becomes the first account that you see in accounts. It pushed down the accounts account. So now we're just creating the Visa card, and we're going to put it at minus $2,500, and it has to be minus because it's not an income account. Sorry, for payments, it shows the accounts that we already have created. You would just choose the account that you're paying it from usually, which would probably be the checking account. And then a lot of questions I get for settlement date and payment date. So payment date, I think, is just the due date, and settlement date, I believe, is the statement date. So let's just say my statement date is every 15th of the month, and my payment date would be due on the 27th of the month. Then down here, you see that these numbers have changed, and it's showing me that December 15th to January 14th would be what would be in this balance, or in the balance that would come for the next statement date. And then the outstanding balance would be anything or any transactions or any amounts that fall between these dates, January 15th and February 14th. Now, somebody asked if you could see what your, available balance is, and I'm not seeing an option for this, and I haven't found an option for this, so I don't think that there actually is an option to be able to do that. It's just putting how much you owe and tracking when the statement date is and when the due date is also. So when you're done, you just hit done and then save. And then again, this comes out no, because we're just setting up the balances right now. So we're back on the main page, and we're going to set up another one. So we do plus, we're going to do personal debts, because that's something that somebody asked me. Let's say that you owe Abby some money. Because it is a debt, you put her name here. Because it's a debt, in the amount section, I would put a minus. So I would say I owe her $100, let's say. And then in the description, if you want, you can actually write what it's for, or when you have to pay the person the money, or whatever you want to write there. And then you would just press save. Again, no. And then it would show up here under the personal debt. So you see that was not there before, but now that we've created an account, it's showing the account group and then the account that we actually created. Let's do another one. What if in personal debts, somebody owes you money? So let's just say Ray owes you money. Now, I would not put a minus sign for this one. I would just put the amount that the person owes me and then probably a description. Now, the reason why I would do that is because whenever Ray pays you, you can just transfer it from this account to whatever account the payment comes into. And I will show examples after, just so that you can see what that looks like when you're actually using the app. So I press save, no, and now under the personal debts, we have Abby and we have Ray. Let's do another one, and let's do a saving. So let's say we just have our sinking fund, and there's no money inside that because we're just going to start saving it. So you just leave this amount as 0. You would press save, and now under savings, we have our sinking fund. Let's do another one. Let's do under loan. So now this looks a little bit different because there's this little blurb here and it's really just explaining that you have to put a negative if you owe the money, because it will show up as an asset and not a liability. So we have a car loan, and we owe $3,600 for the car loan. That's how we would set it up with the negative, right? Because it is a debt. Then if you want, again, in the description, you could put whatever you want. We hit save, no, and the loan is right here now. So let's do something a little trickier and try to figure out what it would look like if we were to add our house as an asset, but then if we have a mortgage on that house, also make sure that it's in there as a liability. So let's press plus, then we're going to choose assets down here, and we're going to put our house. And let's say it's valued at $325,000. Then we press save. And at the bottom here, you're going to see your house. But if we have a mortgage on the house, let's say we have a mortgage on there and we owe them $200,000, how would we offset that? Well, we're going to go to do the plus. We're going to do it under loan. And then we're going to put mortgage. And then we're going to say, I said $200,000 and save. So under loan, we have the car loan and we have the mortgage, but we also have the house to kind of offset it. And it will add whatever equity you have in that house on the statement as an asset. I didn't do it with the car because a car is a depreciating asset and the value of the car fluctuates so quickly and so much and is dependent on so many things that it would just be hard for you to just keep track of it yourself. Under the car loan, if you wanted to write it in the description, like the value and then the date that you checked the value of the car, you can do that also, and then just manually add it into your net worth in the net worth section. So we go back. So a couple of other things too that are hard to track, I would say, would be investments, because the value again fluctuates on a daily basis, especially if you're invested in the stock market. It would be very hard to keep track of. I've tried keeping track of it manually, and I would use more of like an Excel and like track it maybe weekly, but it is difficult. But I believe that this also insurance too, I guess, would be like if you have like a life insurance policy or any type of insurance, I wouldn't really keep track of it in here unless you're going to try to expense it over the year, but people don't really do that in their personal budgets. Maybe that's more of like a business accounting type of thing. But these are here because there is a net worth section. If you want me to make a video on that and like how to make sure that shows up in there, let me know. But I'm not going to be creating any accounts for insurance or investments today. Actually, let's create one investment account. Let's do a retirement one just to see. Investment, so I'll do retirement. And let's say you have $50,000 in there and save. And so that would show up right here under investment. Okay, so when we go back, these two are just, it just shows us the accounts that we deleted. So you saw that I deleted these, and in the accounts, I had deleted these. Another question that I was asked is how to treat certain transactions as expenses. So I guess like the mortgage would be needed to be treated as an expense, right? Because it's not rent, it's mortgage. So that gets settled over here. So you could pause to read this, but essentially what it says is that transfers are not really treated as expenses unless you want them to be and you specify them for specific accounts. And these are the accounts that we created that you would need to specify if you want it to be treated as an expense. Obviously, for the personal debts, I believe it was Abby that owed us money, or that we owed Abby money, or we owed somebody money. So whoever we owed money to, we would definitely want that to be an expense. And for sure, we would want the car loan and the mortgage and the car loan to be an expense also. You could treat the sinking fund as an expense, but I think that I personally believe that you shouldn't, just because you're stashing money for specific expenses. So then when it's time to use money from the sinking fund for those expenses, it's kind of like a double expense almost, because you're not actually spending the money, you're just putting it away. Okay, so we owe Abby money, so we're going to choose this one. We're going to choose the car loan and the mortgage, and those transactions will be treated as expenses when we make the transfers to pay them. So let's go back to the main page. And this last option here, before we get into actually showing you examples of transactions, this one is just telling you that you can configure the way that the expenses show up on the credit card when you use your credit card. So it could be at the time or in a lump sum. Now, I'm not too sure what this means. I don't usually change it. I usually just keep it as at the time, because I'm assuming that from reading this, it's just saying that all the spending that you're doing on your credit card is going to show line by line each amount when you click on the credit card account, as opposed to just like one lump sum. So I just wouldn't change the default on that. And that's it for setting up our accounts. Now we're going to go back to the transactions menu so that I can show you how to make transactions for these accounts. Before we actually do transactions, let's go and have a look at the accounts that we set up and how they show up under accounts. So we press accounts, and here are all the accounts that we set up. We can see all of the balances that we put in each account. The red ones are the liabilities, what we owe, as we can see up here. And the assets are in the blue, which we can see up here. And this is where you would see your total net worth. So now that we see everything here, let's get a few transactions in so that we can see how it affects the balances of these accounts. So we are on the transaction page now. We were on the accounts page, but we are here right now. And we're going to press this plus button. And then this page is going to pop up. Let's go through the page quickly. At the top, we have income, expenses, or transfers. By default, it brings us to income. So don't forget that when you're entering your transactions, that you oscillate between these to decide which one you actually want to use. In the expense account, or section, whatever you enter here is going to show up as an expense. So if you set a budget in the app, it's going to show up on the budget, and it will also affect the accounts that we just looked at. The income is exactly what it says. It's the money that is coming in from outside sources, and that will have an effect on the accounts. And the transfers will have effects on the accounts and their balances only. So the tricky thing here between the transfers and the expenses is we did tell the app that we want certain accounts and transactions associated with those accounts to be seen as expenses, but they're not going to show up in the budgeted area. So let's do a few and then we'll have a look. Start with income. So we press income. As you can see, it's blue now. We have the date and everything. You can change the date by just pressing on it, and then the calendar will pop up. The amount, let's say that we're going to say it was our payroll and we got $2,500. We didn't set up any of these budget accounts. That's not what this video is for, but let's just say it's our salary and it's going into our checking account. And then we press save. It will take us back to the transaction page, and the transaction is right here. If you want to add another transaction for the same date, you would just press on the date and the page would pop up again. If you wanted to edit a transaction, you would press on the transaction itself. And here you have options to make changes that you would want to make. So let's do another one, and let's do an expense this time. We're going to leave it at the same date. And let's just say that we're just paying a random bill. So let's say $100. We don't have a lot of options here. Let's just call it a household, and it's coming from our checking account. Then we press save, and you see over here, the transaction is right there. Let's do another one, another expense. Let's say we did $300 this time, and the category is other. And then let's choose from a different account. Let's say that we put it on our Visa as the expense, and then we press save, and it is right here. Now let's do a transfer. So we want to make sure that up here we're under transfer, And here we have it. It is a neutral color because it is a neutral transaction. Let's do the amount. Here we have fees. So like, let's say you're doing like a wire or something, a wire transfer. You would put any fees that are associated with that wire transfer. We don't have that. We're just going to transfer from one account to another. So we're going to, the date is fine. The amount, let's say it's $50. And if I remember correctly, Ray over here owes us money. So let's say it's a $50 from him and he transferred it to us and it's in our checking account. So we hit save. Let's do another one, but this time under transfer again. This time we're going to pay $50 to the person we owe, and that is Abby. So Abby, $50. We paying from our checking to Abby. Make sure the from and the to, it's always from first and then to. And we're going to save that. And if you notice up here, there's like a little running total for the daily because we're under the daily tab. So we put our income of $2,500. Our income is $2,500. And these expenses are $450. So remember, we chose this account, Abby, to be any transfer that we made to that account to be counting as an expense. And the transfer from Ray is in white because it doesn't really have an effect on expenses or income. It's just money that is owed to us. At least there's no significant change with this transaction. Let's do another transfer. This time, let's say we're paying our mortgage. Now, traditionally, if you're using this for a budgeting app, you would do it under expense. So you would say, let's just say your mortgage is $1,250. You would choose rent. Like rent would be down here or mortgage would be down in this section, and you would choose it. And then you would choose the account that you're paying it from, which is usually the checking account. But we can't do this because then our mortgage account will not be affected. The balance in there will not be affected at all. So the transaction would not affect the mortgage account if we did it as an expense. So when we're paying our mortgage, it has to be done as a transfer from our checking to our mortgage. The drawback is it's not going to, if we save it, it's going to show up as an expense over here, but it won't show up as an expense in our totals where our budget would be if we set one up. It shows over here, right? And then the $300 for the card, total $1,700 of expenses. And then it shows the transfers and stuff, but it's not showing it in the budget. We haven't set it up, but there's no like option really to show transfers in there because you're not expensing it to a specific category. Did the export, this is what it shows. It's not opening on Excel on my phone. This is a screen recording from my phone. So it shows the date, the account, the category over here. So we see that the mortgage is there and those types of things. Then on the middle page, it shows the amount and the type of transfer or income expense it was. It shows that these are transfers, expenses, income, and then the amounts, the currency, again, just like that. And that's what I got. That's what the app produced when I pressed export data to Excel. So now let's go back to the daily tab, or we can just do plus from over here. Actually, the window pops up again. Let's do another transfer of $250 from our checking to our, where is it, sinking fund, and save. I'm just doing this so we can see the effects that it has on the account. So let's go have a look now. We press accounts, and this is the effect. We see over here that our net worth has changed. And now we're going to see how it's changed based on our transactions that pass through these accounts. So to see how our transactions have affected each account, we could just open them by clicking on them, and it shows all of the transactions that came out of our checking account, plus the details and the type of transaction that it was. Then if we go back and do the same for our Visa, we see that the balance has changed, right? We put 2,500, now it's 2,800. And the reason why, again, it's showing as an outstanding balance and not balance payable is just based on the dates. As we saw before, our statement date goes from between December 15th or January 15th to February 14th. So all I did was I clicked on Visa from here. I pressed Visa. It shows me the transactions. It shows me the change in balance and what the balance actually is. So if you want to pay your Visa, you got to press pay over here. I used to do it with transfers, but for some reason, I don't know if this is a bug in the app or what, when I was doing it, like my actual balances here were all over the place and they didn't make any sense and they just weren't adding up mathematically. So I figured you have to just use the pay button here. You press pay and it comes up as a transfer. But again, I think it was just a bug that was there before. So let's try and do a payment, make a payment. So the amount, let's say we're paying $1,000 from our checking account to the Visa, and they put the note there for you as payment, save, and we see it's right over here. And the balance makes sense. Now let's go back and look at the personal debts here for Abby and for Ray. We made 2 transactions for each of them. So for Abby, we had that we owed $100. We paid $50, and so now we just owe her $100. And we go back. For Ray, he owed us $300. He paid us $50. We transferred out, and so now he owes us $250. I want to look at the mortgage. I did not do anything for the car loan. Let's look for the mortgage though, because we had a $200,000 balance. We paid the mortgage $1,250, so it went down, and our new balance is $198,750. If you remember, we didn't set up a budget. I just set up a little one just to show how the transaction will be affected for the mortgage and for the car loan. So for the car loan, we didn't make any transactions yet. I'm going to make one soon, but we're going to go back to the transactions tab, and we are right now under total. That's where the budget lives. And you see I put for the mortgage how much it is, and it didn't register it because it's not showing it as an expense for like a budget expense. It's not applying it to the budgeted section because we didn't choose an expense category. We just did it as a transfer. And then we have the car loan. So if I was to set up a transaction for the car loan, I'll do it one way first. First, I'll do it as an expense. So we'll do $450 for the category. It is car loan, and for the account, it's from the checking account. And we save it. As you can see, the bar is full. We have used up our monthly allocation for the car loan. But if we go into the account section and we scroll down to the car loan, the amount has not changed. And the transaction does not show up here because we registered it as an expense and not as a transfer. So it's really based on your preference. You don't have to have the car loan separate on like as a category or as an account. You can just have it as an expense, and so it'll show up in your budget. Same thing for the mortgage, or you can have it as an amount here and you would have to do the transfer, but you would have to kind of mentally keep it in your mind that it is an expense that is not showing up on your budget. It really depends what you're trying to achieve. If you're trying really to like monitor your net worth closely and you have like big loans and big debts, I would recommend doing it this way, where you're making the transfer as opposed to expensing it. But if you really just want to like monitor your spending and use like an actual budget, then I would have it as just an expense. So even for like the mortgage, if you really wanted to get down into the nitty gritty of things, like the amount that you borrowed was 200,000, but then you're paying interest, you can make one transfer for the principal amount, and then you can have a mortgage expense, like a mortgage interest expense on your budget as a budgeting category, and you could put that portion in there. But then that's when it starts to get complicated and you start kind of delving into the world of actual accounting, and it's no longer just about budgeting. So I really hope that this was helpful for everybody, setting up different accounts and showing you how the transactions would affect those accounts depending on how you set them up. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, share this with anybody who you think might need help setting up this app, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.